The briefing room smelled faintly of coffee, paper, and the metallic edge of tension. Dim fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the walls lined with maps, satellite images, and digital screens. In the center of the room, a polished oak table stretched like a battlefield itself, around which the elite Navy SEALs were seated. Every man wore the same expression, calm on the surface, nerves coiled like springs underneath. Years of training allowed them to mask fear, but the weight of tonight's mission pressed on them like a tangible force. At the head of the table, Commander Hayes stood, a veteran whose eyes seemed to pierce through the fog of uncertainty. He didn't need theatrics, his presence alone demanded attention. "This is not a routine operation," he began, voice steady, but heavy with implication. "We've received intelligence about a high-value target located in the Badia Desert. He's deeply embedded in enemy territory, surrounded by hostile forces who will not hesitate to kill anyone approaching." A hush fell over the room. Every SEAL understood what he meant. The mission could easily turn deadly within seconds. Maps glowed on the screens, showing satellite images overlaid with markers, terrain data, and probable enemy positions. Dunes rose and fell like waves frozen in stone, dotted with jagged rock formations that offered natural cover and natural traps. Commander Hayes traced a path across the digital map, outlining insertion points, possible ambush zones, and escape routes. "We have 3 entry points," he said, tapping the screen. "Alpha is closest, but heavily patrolled. Bravo is longer, but less risky. Charlie is the fallback if all else fails. Timing is critical. We move fast, or we don't move at all." The SEALs listened intently, their minds already calculating angles, trajectories, and contingencies. Weapons lay neatly on the table: rifles, sidearms, grenades, and specialized gear designed for stealth and lethality. Each piece was inspected with reverence, as if the tools themselves understood the gravity of the mission. Sergeant First Class Kane picked up his night vision goggles, turning them over in his hands. He didn't speak, but his eyes betrayed a mixture of anticipation and cold focus. These men didn't need motivational speeches. They thrived in high-pressure environments where precision and calm decided life and death. Commander Hayes continued, "The target is known to travel with a small entourage of armed guards. Intelligence suggests at least 4 lookout positions and 2 heavy machine gun nests. The area has been under surveillance for weeks, but patterns are always changing. Expect the unexpected." His gaze swept across the room. "You will face ambushes, improvised explosive devices, and direct fire. There's no guarantee of support once you're in. The only constant is each other. Trust your team, trust your training, and trust your instincts." A click interrupted the silence as Lieutenant Carter brought up a drone feed. On the screen, tiny figures moved across the desert floor, their shadows stretching unnaturally long under the moonlight. The SEALs leaned closer, studying every movement, every ridge, every potential trap. "This is real-time intel," Carter said. "We can see patrol patterns and guard rotations. It's limited, but it's enough. Memorize the routes. Remember, one false step, one miscalculation, and it could be over before it begins." The men absorbed the information like sponges. Training drills, past missions, and countless simulations ran through their minds. Kane whispered quietly, too, himself reviewing angles of approach. He thought about wind, bullet drop, and the likelihood of enemy observation. Sergeant Riley adjusted his gloves, feeling the familiar grooves and textures that allowed him to handle weapons with surgical precision. Every muscle tensed, ready to spring into action. The room's tension was thick, almost visible, like heat. Waves rising from asphalt. Commander Hayes moved to a large whiteboard filled with diagrams of the terrain. "Extraction will not be easy," he said. Helicopters can hover only in designated zones, and they'll be exposed for exactly 2 minutes. The moment you're out, you're on your own until pickup. Evade, conceal, and neutralize as needed. This is a high-stakes operation. One misstep, one lapse in discipline, and it could cost lives. He paused, letting the words sink in. The weight of responsibility hung in the air like a storm cloud. The SEALs began cross-checking their gear. Bullets, silencers, combs, medical kits. Each man moved with meticulous care, double-checking every detail. Communication devices were tested. The faint hum of electronic equipment filled the room. Even in preparation, there was an unspoken adrenaline buzzing under their skin, a mix of excitement and dread. This wasn't their first mission, but each operation carried a fresh risk, a new chance that everything could go wrong. Commander. Hayes leaned against the table, speaking quietly now, almost as if confiding a secret. You've trained for this your entire lives. Every late night, every drill, every hardship, it's led to this moment. You're the best we have, and I have no doubt you'll execute flawlessly. But remember, don't underestimate the enemy. They're clever, ruthless, and desperate. Respect that, and you'll survive? The SEALs nodded. There were no cheering slogans, no exaggerated bravado, just acknowledgement, trust, and an unspoken bond forged through shared danger. Eyes met. Across the table, silent promises exchanged. I've got your back, and you've got mine. In that room, camaraderie was as critical as weapons. Trust was the lifeline that separated the living from the dead in situations like this. Finally, Commander Hayes concluded the briefing. Once you're in, there's no turning back. Mission starts at 0200. Gear up, mentally and physically. Review routes, memorize details, and rest as much as you can. Tonight, you carry more than weapons. You carry the lives of civilians, the mission's success, and each other. Don't fail. Dismissed. The room emptied quickly, the sound of boots against the floor echoing like a drumbeat of imminent danger. The SEALs dispersed to prepare, each man silently rehearsing the steps, reviewing the intel, and centering his mind for what awaited. The night outside was calm, almost peaceful, but they all knew it was a fragile illusion. Somewhere beyond the horizon, danger waited, patient and invisible, ready to strike. Kane lingered for a moment, staring at the maps. He thought about the families, the stakes, the lives depending on their success. In the quiet of that room, a mixture of fear and resolve settled in his chest. This mission was more than a test of skill. It was a test of endurance, courage, and survival. As the final preparations began, one truth remained undeniable. The desert would not forgive mistakes, and tonight, the SEALs were about to face the ultimate trial. The clock ticked closer to 0200. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying a promise of danger and the weight of responsibility. Inside, the SEALs completed their checks, mentally rehearsed every step, and tightened the bonds that had kept them alive through countless operations. The mission was imminent. Lives hung in the balance, and every heartbeat, every decision, every moment would matter. And with that, the stage was set. The night air hung thick and heavy as the helicopter blades sliced through the darkness, spinning fast enough to blur the stars overhead. Inside, the SEAL team sat in tense silence, their helmets strapped tight, their rifles cradled across laps. Each man ran through the mental checklist one last time. Weapons, combs, grenades, flares, and every contingency they could imagine. The only sound in the cabin was the low hum of the engines and the synchronized breathing of men trained to ignore. Fear and focus entirely on the mission. Lieutenant Carter's eyes scanned the terrain below through a night vision port. The desert stretched endlessly, waves of dunes interspersed with jagged rock outcroppings It jutted into the sky like ancient monuments. Tiny patrols moved along. Predictable routes, but any deviation could be a deadly trap. Carter tapped the shoulder of Sergeant Riley, pointing to a ridge that would provide cover for their insertion. "Alpha's too risky," he whispered. "Bravo is longer, but we can approach unseen from this ridge. Everyone's clear?" Riley nodded, adjusting the strap on his rifle. The mission clock ticked closer to the drop time. The first SEAL descended through the open helicopter door, ropes coiling in his gloved hands. The fast rope technique was flawless, years of training distilled into a few seconds of lethal precision. One by one, the team followed, boots hitting. The rough desert ground silently, almost impossibly. A soft crunch of sand and gravel was the only sound, until a distant howl of wind made the night feel alive, almost sentient. Every man knew that one misstep, one loose grip, could spell disaster. They formed a tight wedge, advancing toward the first checkpoint. Night vision goggles turned the landscape into a surreal green world. Shadows stretched long and menacing, and every rock, every dune, could conceal an enemy. Sergeant Kane led, calculating the angles, scanning the horizon, feeling the pulse of danger in every gust of wind. The team moved like ghosts, coordinated, silent, lethal. Every step had a purpose, every glance counted. The desert, vast and indifferent, became a battleground of wits and nerves. Minutes passed like hours. Radio clicks were short and deliberate. Silence was golden. They communicated in hand signals, eyes conveying instructions more efficiently than words ever could. From a distance, the patrols seemed routine, unaware of the predators moving among them. But the SEALs knew better. The desert was a stage for a deadly game, and they were walking into the middle of it. A single exposed step could trigger an ambush, yet they pressed forward, trusting their training above all. Carter spotted movement. Near a rocky outcrop, something barely distinguishable from the shadows. 2 guards, 10 meters out, he whispered. Kane signaled the team to halt. The SEALs dropped to one knee, weapons raised, scanning, breathing controlled. Each man's pulse was steady, but the tension was suffocating. The guards weren't aware of the invisible threat creeping closer. Kane's hand moved in a subtle gesture, a silent countdown. They waited, calculating timing, distance, and the possibility of detection. Precision was everything. Hesitation could mean death. The guards moved, but slowly, predictably. Kane gave the signal. The SEALs advanced, like predators in a coordinated wave. With silent efficiency, the 2 enemy combatants were neutralized before they could react. No shots rang out, no flare of attention, just the quiet efficiency of men trained to operate under life-and-death pressure. Kane allowed himself a microsecond of satisfaction, but there was no time to linger. The mission wasn't halfway complete. It had only begun. As they pressed deeper into enemy territory, the terrain grew harsher. Dunes rose into towering walls of sand. Jagged rocks formed natural choke points, and narrow gullies funneled movement. The SEALs navigated each obstacle with methodical grace, calculating every step, every trajectory. Sergeant Riley paused briefly to adjust a comlink, his fingers moving over the controls with expert precision. Every piece of gear mattered. Every action, every sound, could determine whether the team remained unseen or was thrown into a deadly firefight. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity. The SEALs kept moving, muscles tense, eyes darting from shadow to shadow. The desert whispered, its secrets in the wind, carrying scents of earth and distant fires. And with each gust, the team's senses sharpened. Lieutenant Carter paused, checking the coordinates against his tablet. 20 meters to the target's perimeter. He murmured. The team froze, analyzing the ridge ahead and the patrolling guards. Heartbeats sped, but focus never wavered. Every SEAL knew that the next step could trigger the encounter that would define the mission. Suddenly, a distant glint caught Kane's eye, metallic reflection of a guard's weapon. He signaled a halt, dropping to the sand as he scanned the horizon. The team mirrored him, crouched low, blending with shadows. The patrol had shifted unexpectedly. Kane adjusted their path silently, using rocks and dunes for cover. The desert became a chessboard, each move calculated to avoid detection. Sweat ran under helmets, adrenaline sharpened reflexes, and even breathing was measured to prevent noise. Danger was near, but discipline was stronger. The first obstacle was a steep dune rising like a silent wall. Kane led the climb, gripping the sand and pulling his team upward. The wind tugged at their gear, sand slipping beneath boots, testing balance and resolve. From the ridge, they could see the target area, a cluster of buildings surrounded by watchtowers and fortified positions. Guards moved predictably, yet any miscalculation could expose them. Carter checked coordinates again, whispering a countdown. The team prepared to descend into the next stage of the mission, infiltration into the enemy's immediate vicinity. Communication was minimal but precise. A flick of a hand, a tilt of the head, each gesture conveyed volumes. Riley positioned himself to cover flanks. Kane led the approach, and Carter monitored surveillance feeds. The desert was silent, except for the distant howls of wind and the occasional rattle of loose rock. Each step brought them closer to potential danger, yet the SEALs moved with confidence born from countless hours of preparation. Shadows became allies, darkness a cloak, and every heartbeat was synchronized with the mission's rhythm. Finally, the edge of the target perimeter came into view. Watchtowers loomed like silent sentinels, guards patrolled in methodical loops, and the structures promised deadly surprises. The SEALs paused at the ridge, taking in the layout, memorizing every route, every potential trap. Kane whispered, "Reminder, stay silent, stay low, move fast." The team nodded, anticipation and fear intertwining, adrenaline flowing like electricity. The insertion had been successful, undetected so far, but the real test, the confrontation with the enemy, was imminent. The desert around them seemed to hold its breath. Sand shifted under faint gusts, moonlight glinted off metal roofs, and every shadow could conceal danger. Kane's mind raced through contingencies, exit strategies, and fallback plans. He knew this stage was critical. Detection now could ruin the mission entirely. The SEALs adjusted positions, silent, tense, deadly in their focus. Hours of preparation, skill, and nerve led to this moment. Every second mattered. Every decision could mean life or death, for the team, the target, and the mission itself. A final glance at each other, eyes meeting in silent acknowledgement. They were ready. The desert had been conquered in approach, but the fight, the infiltration, the ambush, the survival was only beginning. Kane inhaled, steadying his mind, counting the beats. Infiltration was more than movement. It was anticipation, precision, and instinct honed to perfection. And now, as the team prepared to descend from the ridge into the enemy's domain, every heartbeat pulsed with danger, every muscle coiled with readiness, and the desert waited for them to make their move. The desert had been silent for hours, but that fragile quiet shattered in an instant. Bullets tore through the night air, whistling past the SEALs as they scrambled for cover. The ambush had been waiting, calculated with ruthless precision. Enemy fighters, hidden in the rocky outcrops and behind dunes, had chosen the exact moment to strike, and now chaos reigned. Sparks flew from ricocheting rounds, sand erupted with every impact, and the acrid smell of gunpowder filled the air. Sergeant Kane dove behind a jagged boulder, the coarse surface biting through his gloves. His rifle swept the shadows as he fired suppressive rounds, each shot measured, calculated. The SEALs responded instinctively, forming a defensive perimeter. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, every movement was choreographed by training and instinct. Riley took the left flank, covering blind spots, while Carter maintained overwatch, feeding live intel from his portable drone feed. The team was alive in the chaos, but survival was far from guaranteed. Red flares streaked into the sky. A SEAL had fired an SOS signal, the bright light carving a path through the darkness. The flare illuminated the battlefield in harsh streaks of red, revealing friend and foe alike. For a moment, the enemy faltered, their advantage of concealment compromised. Kane took the opportunity to coordinate the team's movements. Suppressive fire, left flank cover, move to higher ground. His commands cut through the chaos, every word precise, every second critical. The SEALs obeyed without hesitation, each action instinctive and deadly. Bullets slammed into the rocks around them, chipping stone and kicking up sand. Kane felt the vibration of a nearby impact and instinctively ducked, returning fire. Riley fired from behind cover, hitting a figure attempting to flank their position. Carter's drone feed showed movement near a small outpost, 2 more combatants preparing to advance. Kane calculated trajectories, angles, and timing, issuing hand signals to coordinate the team's next moves. The desert had become a deadly chessboard, and the SEALs were playing against an opponent who knew every square. Amid the roar of gunfire, a sense of calm descended on Kane. Years of training distilled into clarity. Observe, plan, execute. He signaled Carter to guide the drone closer, pinpointing enemy positions, while Riley prepared a tactical maneuver to flank them. The SEALs moved with uncanny precision, using rocks, dunes, and shadows as cover. Every shot was deliberate, every move calculated to survive. The ambush, though devastating, was slowly being countered by discipline and teamwork, honed through countless drills and real-world missions. Explosions rattled the terrain as an enemy grenade detonated near the team, throwing sand and debris into the air. Kane rolled, pulling Riley with him, and firing as they went. Sparks flew from the impact of bullets against nearby rocks. The SEALs' adrenaline surged. Fear was replaced by laser focus. Time became elastic, each second stretching into eternity as bullets whizzed past, and the team executed their tactical training with almost supernatural precision. Every heartbeat mattered. Hesitation could be fatal. Through the chaos, Kane noticed subtle shifts. Enemy fighters were disorganized, morale wavering as they realized the SEALs were not just reacting but anticipating. Carter's drone feed displayed live movement patterns, guiding the team's counterattack. Kane adjusted their approach, signaling Riley to suppress a cluster of enemy soldiers, while Kane himself moved toward higher ground. From this vantage, they could observe the battlefield, anticipate reinforcements, and prepare for the next wave. Every SEAL was aware this fight was far from over, and every decision could tip the scales between life and death. Then the unexpected happened. From a ridge above the battlefield, a single sniper emerged, unseen until that precise moment. 5 shots rang out in rapid succession, each one hitting its mark. The ambush faltered instantly. Enemy combatants fell, confusion spreading like wildfire through their ranks. The SEALs froze for a heartbeat, scanning the battlefield in disbelief. The sniper's intervention had shifted the balance. Kane signaled the team to advance while the enemy scrambled for cover. In seconds, what had been a near-fatal trap transformed into an opportunity to regain control. The sniper remained invisible, perched like a ghost in the shadows, calculating every shot with deadly accuracy. Kane moved the team forward, each SEAL covering the other's blind spots, advancing in perfect synchronization. The enemy's momentum collapsed, disoriented by the unseen sharpshooter. Carter's drone highlighted pockets of resistance, and Riley neutralized threats methodically, clearing the way. The desert, once a deadly maze, now offered a path forward, thanks to precision and timing that only a seasoned marksman could provide. Sand and debris still filled the air, but the SEALs pressed onward. Kane led the team through narrow gullies, past shattered rocks, and toward the next objective point. Every shot fired, every movement, every breath was executed with surgical precision. The ambush had cost precious time and energy, but the SEALs had survived. They had adapted under fire, leveraging training, teamwork, and the sudden intervention of a hidden sniper to turn what could have been disaster into opportunity. Despite the relief, caution remained paramount. Kane scanned the horizon, calculating possibilities. Reinforcements could arrive, hidden traps might remain, and the desert could conceal dangers that no drone could reveal. The SEALs moved with heightened awareness, every sense sharpened. Communication was silent, through hand signals and brief radio clicks. Adrenaline coursed through every muscle, but discipline prevailed. The ambush had tested them, and they had passed not unscathed, but alive, focused, and ready for the next phase of the mission. By the time the flare burned out, casting the desert back into darkness, the SEALs had regained tactical advantage. The sniper's unseen intervention had prevented catastrophe. Kane took a moment to observe his team. Sweat-streaked faces, adrenaline-fueled movements, eyes sharp and calculating. They had survived the ambush, but the mission was far from over. The enemy had been disrupted, but not eliminated, and danger still lurked in every shadow. The team pressed on, their resolve hardened, their focus sharpened, ready to complete the operation. As they moved deeper toward the objective, Kane reflected on the fine line between life and death. One misstep had led to the ambush, but training, discipline, and a bit of luck had saved them. The sniper had changed the battlefield in 5 decisive shots, but survival depended on more than one man's skill. The SEALs knew that every moment mattered, every decision carried consequences, and every heartbeat was a testament to human precision and courage in the face of overwhelming danger. The desert night remained unforgiving, yet the SEALs advanced. Rocks and dunes that had once concealed enemy shooters now provided cover for their movement. Each step was deliberate, each pause measured. The team had survived the first test of the mission, the ambush, but now they faced the real challenge: infiltrating the target's fortified compound and extracting their high-value objective alive. Kane adjusted his grip on his rifle, signaling the team to halt briefly. The time for stealth was ending. The time for calculated aggression was approaching. With the ambush behind them, but danger still ahead, Kane led his team to higher ground. Shadows stretched and warped in the moonlight, and every crevice could hide a threat. Carter's drone hovered discreetly, scanning for movement, feeding live intel to the team. Riley prepared tactical maneuvers to neutralize any resistance, while Kane coordinated the advance with silent precision. The desert was still deadly. But now the SEALs had regained momentum, their cohesion unbroken, their resolve unshakable. Survival had hinged on training, teamwork, and a sudden, miraculous intervention, but the mission was far from over. The desert seemed to breathe around them, alive with unseen dangers. Every sound was magnified, every shadow a potential threat. Kane signaled a halt, taking stock of their position. The ambush had been devastating, but not insurmountable. 5. Sniper shots had saved lives, but the mission demanded more than luck. Precision, discipline, and unwavering focus would carry them through the next phase. The SEALs crouched, hearts pounding, eyes scanning the horizon. Every second mattered. Every decision counted. The ambush had tested them, and they had survived, but the true test awaited in the darkness ahead. The desert was a battlefield of shifting shadows, gunfire echoes, and scattered debris. The SEALs had survived the ambush, but survival alone wasn't enough. The enemy was disoriented, but far from defeated, and the mission's objective still lay ahead, guarded and fortified. Kane signaled his team to regroup behind a jagged outcrop, their movements precise and calculated despite exhaustion. Sweat-streaked faces glimmered under moonlight, breaths shallow but steady. Every man knew the fight wasn't over their counterattack. Had to be decisive, or the ambush could repeat with deadly consequences. Kane scanned the battlefield. Enemy fighters were scrambling, some returning fire sporadically, others retreating to regroup. The sniper's earlier shots had shattered enemy morale, but it was not enough. Carter's drone hovered above, transmitting live intel. Tiny dots moved between buildings, crouching behind sandbags, attempting to regain control of the engagement. Kane studied the patterns, noting weak points in their formation. He issued hand signals, subtle but firm, and the team responded instinctively. Years of synchronized training turned instinct into deadly choreography. Every step, every shot, every movement was precise, a calculated counterstrike in the unforgiving desert. Riley took the left flank, moving with silent determination across a dune's crest. His rifle's barrel caught moonlight as he prepared to suppress a group of combatants attempting to reposition. Kane moved toward higher ground, using rocks and boulders as cover, eyes scanning for threats, calculating angles and timing. Carter's drone feed pinpointed positions, allowing the team to strike with surgical precision. The enemy's advantage of surprise was gone. The SEALs now dictated the battlefield, controlling movement and tempo. Adrenaline surged, but their focus was unwavering. Honed through years of missions where hesitation could mean death, the counterattack began in earnest. Kane raised his hand and fired a round into a rock to distract enemy fighters. Riley responded, immediately moving in sync to suppress gunfire from a fortified outpost. Carter relayed live coordinates to Kane, enabling precision targeting of enemy positions without exposing the team. The desert erupted with controlled chaos. Bullets tore into the sand, rocks exploded in showers of dust, and smoke rose from spent grenades. Every action was deliberate, turning the ambush into a calculated offensive that kept the enemy disoriented and reactive rather than proactive. From higher ground, Kane assessed the battlefield. The sniper remained unseen, a phantom ally whose shots had already broken enemy morale. Kane considered their options, weighing risk against reward. The team could push forward toward the target compound, neutralizing threats along the way, or consolidate their position and call for extraction. Time was critical. Lingering could allow the enemy to regroup or bring reinforcements. Kane made a decision. They would advance, systematically reclaiming control while minimizing exposure. The counterattack was as much psychological as tactical, a demonstration of precision, confidence, and lethal efficiency. Riley maneuvered across the sand, firing suppressive shots to keep enemy heads down, while Kane and two other SEALs moved toward a sandbagged position that provided a strategic vantage point. Carter's drone feed revealed movement behind a rocky outcrop, two combatants attempting to flank. Kane signaled silently, and Riley repositioned to intercept. The enemy's attempt failed, neutralized before they could complete their maneuver. The desert became a controlled battlefield, dominated by discipline, coordination, and the SEALs' mastery of stealth, timing, and tactical execution. The enemy, once confident in their ambush, was now retreating under precise fire. Kane pushed forward, signaling the team to advance incrementally, using cover and suppression to move in waves. Every action was measured: suppress, advance, secure. Sand kicked up with each volley of bullets, creating a haze that masked their movements while revealing the enemy's exposed positions. Carter's drone feed continued to relay critical intel, allowing Kane to adjust strategy in real time. The SEALs were no longer reacting. They were controlling the battlefield. From a ridge, Kane spotted a fortified watchtower manned by 2 armed guards. Without hesitation, he signaled Riley to provide covering fire. Kane advanced with surgical precision, taking the guards by surprise and neutralizing the threat before they could raise an alarm. The team's coordination was flawless. While Kane cleared the tower, Carter's drone scanned for reinforcements, and Riley suppressed anyone attempting to counterattack. Each shot, each movement, demonstrated why SEALs were the most lethal operators in the world, a combination of instinct, training, and split-second decision-making that turned adversity into advantage. The counterattack gained momentum. Kane led the team through narrow gullies and rocky ridges, neutralizing enemy positions systematically. Smoke grenades provided cover while suppressive fire kept enemy heads down. The desert, once a maze of hidden threats, became a controlled environment in their hands. Each SEAL covered another, moving like a living machine. Coordination, trust, and timing were paramount. The sniper's unseen support continued to dominate the battlefield, providing lethal intervention from above. The SEALs pressed forward, reclaiming lost ground and forcing the enemy into retreat. Exhaustion threatened to slow them, but adrenaline and focus held fast. Kane scanned the perimeter and noted enemy fighters attempting to regroup near a sand dune. He signaled Carter to guide the drone for a tactical strike, while Riley maneuvered to intercept any advancing threats. Kane's voice remained calm, precise, and authoritative. The SEALs executed flawlessly, neutralizing enemy combatants without hesitation. Every movement reinforced their dominance over the battlefield, every shot carefully calculated to maintain momentum. The desert, once chaotic and lethal, now bore the mark of disciplined precision. The counterattack's crescendo approached as the SEALs reached the edge of the target's compound. Kane paused briefly, assessing reinforcements, patrols, and potential traps. Communication was minimal. Hand signals sufficed. Carter's drone confirmed that enemy movement was fragmented, scattered by the combined effect of the SEAL's tactical advance and the sniper's support. Kane signaled the team to prepare for the final push. Every member adjusted grips, recalibrated weapons, and readied grenades. Their hearts pounded, adrenaline coursing through veins, muscles coiled for action. The counterattack had reclaimed control, but the most dangerous phase was still ahead, the mission itself. Riley positioned himself. To cover the left flank, Kane advanced toward the central entrance, and Carter monitored the entire operation from above. The enemy's morale was fractured, but danger lingered. One wrong step, one exposed shot, and the balance could shift again. The SEALs moved with almost supernatural coordination, each action perfectly timed to exploit enemy weaknesses. Bullets and sand kicked up around them, smoke obscured vision, and the night was a chaotic canvas painted with discipline, precision, and lethal intent. Finally, Kane assessed the battlefield. The enemy had been disoriented, their morale shattered, and their formations broken. The SEALs had regained full control of the engagement area. Sand, smoke, and debris swirled around them, evidence of the fierce exchange, but the team remained unscathed and prepared. Kane signaled the team to halt briefly, scanning the horizon for reinforcements. They had survived the ambush and executed a flawless counterattack, turning the tide of the battle in their favor. The desert fell momentarily silent, punctuated only by distant groans of retreating combatants. Kane allowed a fleeting moment of satisfaction. Their training, precision, and coordination had prevailed against overwhelming odds. But the mission wasn't complete. The target remained in the fortified compound, still a challenge ahead. Kane looked at his team, sweat-soaked, alert, and unwavering. They had proven their lethal efficiency in counterattack, but every heartbeat reminded them of the dangers that still lay ahead. The night was far from over, and the real fight was just beginning. Kane took a deep breath, centering himself and his team. The desert had tested them, throwing ambush, chaos, and enemy fire at every turn. They had adapted, survived, and dominated. Every SEAL knew what had just been achieved, a testament to discipline, teamwork, and the ability to thrive under life or death. Pressure. The counterattack was a turning point, but the mission stakes remained high. Kane signaled forward. It was time to advance, to press the advantage, and to complete the operation that had brought them into the desert under the cover of night. The desert night seemed to hold its breath. The SEALs had regained control, but danger still lingered in every shadow. Kane scanned the terrain from a rocky outcrop, eyes sweeping across dunes and ridges. Movement flickered in the moonlight, subtle, precise, and almost imperceptible. At first, he thought it was one of his team repositioning, but a gut instinct told him otherwise. Someone was watching. Somewhere, hidden, a marksman waited. Carter's drone provided an aerial overview, highlighting clusters of enemy movement. As they tried to regroup, Kane squinted at the screen, mapping probable positions, but one location remained blank, too precise to be visible to technology. A sense of tension rippled through him. He gestured to Riley, signaling caution. The team advanced slowly, rifles ready, every step deliberate. They had survived the ambush and executed a counterattack, but the desert had more surprises in store. Kane's instincts had never been wrong. Then, almost imperceptibly, the first shock rang out. The sound was low, precise, almost surgical. One of the enemy combatants fell before firing a warning shot. Kane froze, scanning. Another shot followed another enemy down. 5 shots, each deliberate, each calculated. The team realized instantly. An unseen sniper had entered the battlefield. Their ambush was being dismantled by a solitary figure whose precision and timing rivaled their own. The desert's chaos suddenly gained clarity, focused by the deadly presence of a sharpshooter. Kane signaled his team to hold position, eyes narrowing as he tried to locate the source. The sniper's movements were ghost-like, calculated, silent, impossible to detect. Each shot destabilized the enemy, fracturing morale and dispersing formations. The SEALs pressed forward carefully, taking advantage of the confusion, but the sniper's role was unmistakable. Kane allowed a brief moment of gratitude. In this firefight, the unseen ally had shifted the balance in their favor, changing what could have been a perilous mission into a tactical opportunity. Riley moved along a ridge, suppressing enemy positions that had been exposed by the sniper's intervention. Sand kicked up with every volley, the desert alive with smoke, dust, and echoes of gunfire. Carter's drone feed pinpointed additional enemy fighters attempting to regroup, while Kane calculated angles of approach for the next wave of movement. The sniper's unseen support allowed the SEALs to reclaim initiative, moving with deadly precision while the enemy scrambled to survive. The battlefield had been transformed from chaos to controlled aggression. From his vantage point, Kane finally saw the effects of the sniper's work. Enemy fighters were disoriented, scattered, and vulnerable. Kane adjusted the team's path, signaling them to advance methodically toward the target compound. Suppressive fire, tactical positioning, and the unseen sniper's lethal accuracy created a deadly symphony of movement. Riley covered flanks. Kane coordinated angles, and Carter's drone provided real-time intelligence. Each SEAL relied on instinct, training, and the silent support of a marksman who had become an invisible force of survival. The sniper's next 5 shots were like clockwork, each one surgical in execution. Guards attempting to regroup behind rock formations or sandbags fell in rapid succession, unable to predict the source. Kane signaled his team to move forward, capitalizing on the enemy's fractured formations. The counterattack was now unstoppable. The ambush had been neutralized, and the path toward the target compound opened. Each SEAL moved with precision, their bodies and minds aligned in perfect coordination. The desert had tested them relentlessly, but training and timing prevailed. Even as they advanced, Kane remained hyper-aware. The sniper was a ghost, a lethal presence who could not be seen, but whose actions shaped every move on the battlefield. Kane whispered a command, and the team fanned out slightly, using natural cover and suppressive fire to minimize exposure. Enemy movement was sporadic and hesitant. The sniper's 5 shots had sown panic. The SEALs pressed onward, fully aware that while the immediate threat was neutralized, the mission was far from over. Every step, every glance, every breath counted. The sniper's influence became more evident with each passing minute. Enemy reinforcements approached cautiously, uncertain where the lethal fire originated. Kane seized the opportunity to maneuver his team into more advantageous positions. Riley and another SEAL flanked a small group, attempting to counterattack, neutralizing threats silently and efficiently. Carter relayed live drone intel, marking enemy locations and advising Kane on movement. The sniper, though unseen, was shaping the battlefield like a master strategist, allowing the SEALs to dictate engagement terms. Kane allowed himself a brief calculation. 5 well-placed shots had altered the engagement's trajectory completely. The ambush had been devastating, but the sniper's intervention gave the team control they would not have otherwise possessed. Kane signaled a coordinated advance, moving the team closer to the compound while maintaining awareness of every potential threat. Each SEAL relied on the others implicitly. The sniper had become the silent 6th member of their operation. The desert, once chaotic and lethal, now yielded to discipline, strategy, and lethal precision. As they moved closer, the sniper continued to cover them indirectly, taking out enemies attempting to fortify positions or regroup near natural cover. Kane signaled the team to halt briefly, scanning for hidden threats and recalculating approach paths. The desert's quiet moments were brief, punctuated by the crack of distant gunfire, the hiss of sand displaced by bullets, and the steady hum of Carter's drone. Kane's instincts remained razor-sharp. Every movement had to be deliberate, every calculation precise. The sniper had bought them a tactical advantage, but vigilance remained essential. The unseen sharpshooter's timing was impeccable. Kane watched as enemies attempting to escape were neutralized one by one, their formation crumbling. Riley and the team moved methodically, clearing pockets of resistance while the sniper provided unseen overwatch. Each movement was synchronized. With lethal efficiency, Kane felt a surge of confidence. The ambush had been turned into a decisive advantage. The sniper's role was invisible yet undeniable. Every step they took now carried them closer to completing the mission, each action supported by the quiet, deadly hand of an unseen ally. Finally, Kane allowed a fleeting glance upward. The sniper's position remained unknown, yet the team sensed a presence guiding their actions, protecting their flanks, and shaping the battlefield. Kane adjusted movement patterns, coordinating suppression and advance. Knowing the sniper's 5 shots had shifted momentum irrevocably, enemy morale was shattered. The path to the compound was becoming accessible. The SEALs moved with fluidity. Their combined skill, instinct, and silent support from above, turning the desert into a controlled environment of lethal efficiency. The sniper remained unseen, perched like a ghost, controlling the battlefield with precision and patience. Kane's team, though still alert, could now move faster, exploiting enemy hesitation and disorganization. Each SEAL played a critical role. Riley flanked, Carter provided drone intel, and Kane coordinated every step. The desert, which had erupted in chaos during the ambush, had been tamed by discipline, precision, and the intervention of a single deadly marksman. Momentum had shifted decisively in favor of the SEALs, giving them the opportunity to advance toward the target compound. As they approached, Kane reflected on the sniper's impact. 5 shots had changed the battle entirely. The ambush had been carefully planned, lethal, and precise, but the sniper's intervention had given them the advantage they needed to survive and regain control. Every SEAL moved with renewed confidence, understanding the magnitude of this unseen ally's contribution. The desert, once a maze of threat and uncertainty, now lay before them as a path toward success, carved by discipline, skill, and precise, invisible intervention. With each step closer to the target, the SEALs felt the sniper's presence in their favor. Enemy resistance diminished, morale faltered, and the path toward the fortified compound opened. Kane led the team forward, aware that the sniper's 5 deadly shots had transformed a near-disastrous ambush into a tactical opportunity. The desert's silence, once deadly, now held promise. The SEALs advanced, every heartbeat synchronized with training, every step calculated, every action precise. The mission's first true test had been survived, and the sniper's lethal intervention ensured the path forward. The desert, once chaotic and unpredictable, now lay partially under the SEAL's command. Enemy resistance had been shattered by the ambush and the unseen sniper's 5 decisive shots. Kane crouched behind a jagged boulder, scanning the battlefield, with the practiced calm of a predator assessing prey. Dust swirled with every burst of gunfire and every shifting shadow, but the SEALs moved methodically, every step calculated to reclaim full tactical control. Carter's drone hovered above, transmitting live intelligence. Tiny dots of movement flitted across the sand, the remaining enemy attempting to regroup, but clearly disoriented. Kane adjusted the team's formation, using the natural contours of the terrain to cover each advance. Riley moved to the left, suppressing isolated threats, while Kane coordinated from the center, calculating angles of fire, cover, and approach. The team's movements were fluid, precise, and lethal, an orchestrated symphony of tactical mastery. The sniper remained a ghostly force above them, unseen but undeniably influencing the battlefield. Every enemy repositioning was met with deadly accuracy. Kane signaled the team to advance incrementally, seizing the momentum that the ambush and sniper had granted. The SEALs pressed forward in coordinated waves, neutralizing enemy pockets systematically. Each shot fired, each movement executed, reinforced the regained control. The desert had been hostile, chaotic, and dangerous, but now discipline, precision, and training dominated over panic and confusion. Riley approached a small dune where 2 enemy fighters had taken cover. Kane signaled him to suppress their position. Riley fired controlled bursts, forcing the enemy into the open, allowing Kane and another SEAL to advance and neutralize the threat silently. The process repeated multiple times: suppress, advance, secure. Each action was deliberate, methodical, and ruthless in efficiency. Enemy resistance waned, morale crumbling under the relentless combination of tactical discipline, coordinated movement, and the unseen sniper's precision. Carter guided the drone closer to the compound, revealing weak points in enemy fortifications. Kane analyzed the feed, identifying choke points and blind spots. He signaled Riley to take the left flank, covering the approach, while Kane and the remaining team members advanced through natural cover. Sand kicked up beneath boots, dust and smoke swirling with every suppressed explosion. The SEALs had transformed the battlefield, from chaos to calculated control, from reactive defense to aggressive reclamation. Every heartbeat, every motion, was synchronized with lethal efficiency. The remaining enemy fighters attempted to fortify behind rock outcrops and sandbags, But Kane had anticipated this. Suppressive fire pinned them down while Riley moved with stealth to flank and neutralize. Carter's drone highlighted their positions, allowing Kane to time advances perfectly. The desert had become a controlled environment, each wave of action predictable and precise, turning the battlefield into an arena where discipline, training, and lethal skill dictated the outcome. The SEALs pressed on, reclaiming territory that had been lost in the initial ambush. From his vantage point, Kane observed the enemy's disarray. Lines were broken, formations collapsed, and morale faltered. The SEALs had regained control, but vigilance remained paramount. One misstep could reverse their gains. Kane signaled a brief halt, giving the team a moment to assess positions, reload, and recalibrate. Sweat streaked their faces. Adrenaline coursed through every vein, but focus remained unwavering. Every movement, every shot, every decision mattered. The desert demanded precision, and the SEALs delivered. Riley and Kane advanced along a narrow ridge toward a fortified outpost. Bullets whizzed past, kicked up sand, and ricocheted off rocks, but their movement remained steady. Carter relayed drone intel, highlighting enemy attempts to regroup behind cover. Kane coordinated the team, signaling synchronized movements, timing suppressive fire with each advance. The desert became a controlled battlefield where chaos was replaced by precision. The SEALs' regained control was now absolute. The ambush had been neutralized, and every tactical advantage was leveraged to press forward toward the objective. The sniper remained unseen, a phantom ally shaping the battlefield from afar. 5 precise shots had shifted momentum, but their influence continued as the remaining enemy attempted to resist. Kane allowed the team to move faster, exploiting gaps, advancing through shallow gullies and behind dunes. Suppressive fire and stealth allowed the SEALs to isolate pockets of resistance, neutralizing threats systematically. The desert, once hostile and unpredictable, now became an extension of the team's training, instinct, and coordination. Momentum was theirs, and the enemy had no choice but to retreat or be eliminated. Kane paused briefly at the ridge's edge, scanning the terrain. Dust and smoke rose from the battlefield, illuminated in faint moonlight. Enemy movements were hesitant, morale shattered, formations fractured. The SEALs pressed forward with deadly precision, each action synchronized with training and instinct. Riley neutralized a lone fighter, attempting to escape behind cover, while Carter guided the team around blind spots using live drone intel. Every step, every shot, every movement reinforced the regained control, demonstrating why elite operators could dominate against overwhelming odds. The team reached a plateau overlooking the compound. From this vantage, Kane observed the enemy's remaining positions. A few scattered guards, attempting to regroup near sandbags and low walls. Kane signaled the team to advance in waves, methodical and precise. Suppressive fire forced the enemy into exposed positions, allowing the SEALs to neutralize them efficiently. The desert had tested their skills, endurance, and focus, but training, discipline, and teamwork now held sway. The battlefield was under their command, the enemy's advantage erased by calculated execution. Riley moved along a narrow ridge to cover the left flank, while Kane advanced toward a small sandbag fortification. Carter's drone highlighted enemy clusters attempting to regroup behind rocks. Kane timed their movements precisely. Suppressive fire, flanking maneuver, advance. Each action reinforced regained control. The sniper remained unseen but deadly effective, removing threats before they could challenge the SEALs' progress. The desert had transformed from a lethal, chaotic maze into a controlled theater of precision, strategy, and skill. Every SEAL's movement contributed to reclaiming the battlefield, inch by calculated inch. Hours of firefight had left the desert scarred, craters of sand, displaced rocks, and smoke hanging in the air. The SEALs moved with discipline, cleaning up remaining threats and securing perimeters. Kane surveyed the battlefield, ensuring no enemy remained in positions to interfere with the next phase. Carter monitored live drone feeds, highlighting remaining enemy attempts at concealment. Riley and the team neutralized these positions systematically, advancing toward the compound with confidence. Regained control was absolute, the battlefield, now a testament to the team's lethal efficiency. The final pockets of enemy resistance attempted to regroup near rocky outcrops. Kane calculated trajectories, signaling suppressive fire while Riley flanked. Every move was synchronized, precise, and lethal. Carter's drone provided real-time intel, allowing the team to anticipate movements before they occurred. The sniper remained an unseen ally, shaping the battlefield and ensuring no resistance could regain momentum. Dust, sand, and smoke swirled around the team as they advanced methodically. The desert, once hostile and unpredictable, now lay under their control, a testament to training, coordination, and tactical mastery. By the time the team reached the edge of the compound, Kane paused briefly to reassess positions. Enemy resistance had been neutralized or scattered, morale broken. The SEALs had regained full tactical control, but the mission was far from complete. The high-value target remained within the fortified compound. Kane signaled the team forward, every SEAL adjusting grips, recalibrating weapons, and preparing for the final approach. Regained control was not just survival, it was opportunity. Every heartbeat, every breath, every movement brought them closer to completing the mission successfully. The desert silence returned, punctuated only by distant groans and the occasional faint crack of sand shifting. Kane's team had transformed chaos into controlled aggression, turning an ambush into tactical dominance. Riley covered flanks. Carter monitored drone intel, and Kane coordinated every step. The sniper's unseen presence continued to influence the battlefield. The SEALs advanced with lethal efficiency, every action calculated, every movement precise. Regained control was complete, but the next challenge awaited, the fortified compound and the high-value target it protected. Kane took a deep breath, signaling forward. The team had survived ambush, chaos, and hostile fire. They had regained control, isolated enemy threats, and turned the battlefield in their favor. Each SEAL moved with fluid precision, every action, reinforcing training, discipline, and trust. The desert had tested them brutally, but now momentum and tactical advantage were theirs. Ahead lay the final objective, but for now, the SEALs savored a fleeting moment. The battlefield was under their command. Chaos had been subdued, and control had been decisively regained. The desert had been won, the battlefield under the SEALs' control, yet the mission's final and most dangerous phase awaited: extraction. Kane crouched behind a jagged rock formation, overlooking the target compound. The high-value target was secured, but the desert was still lethal. Every shadow a potential threat, every ridge a potential ambush. Survival had depended on skill, training, and the unseen sniper's intervention. Extraction would test the team's precision under extreme pressure. Carter's drone hovered above, feeding live coordinates and scanning for enemy reinforcements. Kane's team was calm but alert, each SEAL's breathing measured, movements deliberate. Riley checked his rifle, adjusting optics, scanning the flanks for any approaching threats. The desert was quiet for the first time in hours, but silence was deceptive. The enemy had been fractured, but scattered forces could regroup, hidden in dunes or behind rock formations. The extraction point was close, but getting there alive would demand flawless execution. Kane signaled the team to advance in tactical formation, moving from dune to dune, rock to rock. The target, a high-value intelligence officer, was secured and shackled under Carter's guidance, aware of the precariousness of every step. The SEALs moved as a single unit, each covering another's blind spots, each anticipating threats. Suppressive fire was ready, but discretion was key. Any unnecessary shots could draw unwanted attention. The desert was vast, yet hostile. Every step toward the extraction point carried calculated risk. The extraction helicopter's low rotor could be heard in the distance, faint but reassuring. Kane checked the timing on his watch, confirming coordination with the pilot. The chopper would hover near a rocky outcrop, a precarious landing site offering cover but minimal margin for error. Kane mapped the terrain mentally, signaling the team to adjust their approach. Dust kicked up with each careful step. Sand shifted, unpredictably beneath boots. The desert's unpredictability was an obstacle, yet discipline, precision, and coordination had been honed to overcome it. Riley took the left flank, scanning the ridges, while Kane advanced centrally, coordinating movements. Carter guided the team using drone intel, highlighting potential ambush points and identifying enemy movements from a distance. The team approached a narrow pass, a potential choke point where any enemy could strike. Kane signaled a brief halt, scanning for threats. Every second mattered. A single wrong move could expose the team and the high-value target to enemy fire. Preparation and vigilance were paramount. From a ridge, Kane spotted a faint glimmer, a hint of enemy movement attempting to regroup and interfere with the extraction. The sniper, unseen and lethal, had already neutralized most immediate threats, but some remained. Kane signaled Riley to suppress their position, and the team moved in coordinated waves. Bullets ricocheted off rocks, sand erupted around them, and the desert became a controlled battlefield once more. Every shot, every movement was precise, a testament to training and instinct under extreme pressure. The helicopter descended closer, rotor wash kicking up clouds of sand, obscuring vision. Kane signaled the team to move toward the designated extraction zone, using the disturbed sand and debris as partial cover. The target remained in the center of the formation, protected by SEALs on all sides. Riley provided overwatch, scanning for any remaining combatants attempting to intervene. Carter relayed drone intel continuously, marking movements and providing situational awareness. The team's coordination was flawless, every step synchronized to maximize speed and minimize exposure. Enemy fighters, scattered but not defeated, attempted to disrupt the extraction. Kane quickly assessed positions, signaling suppression and flanking maneuvers. Riley neutralized one threat, attempting to flank from the left, while Kane covered the central approach. Carter's drone pinpointed another enemy, attempting to fire from a distant dune. Kane made a split-second decision-precision shots from his rifle neutralized the threat, clearing a safe path to the extraction zone. Every heartbeat, every action, was a delicate balance between speed and control. The helicopter descended lower, rotor wash tearing at the desert sand. Dust swirled violently, making visibility nearly impossible. Kane signaled the team to fan out slightly, creating defensive coverage as they approached the landing site. The target, aware of the precariousness of each step, followed under Carter's guidance. The desert's danger was palpable. Any misstep could spell disaster, but the SEALs' discipline remained unbroken. Years of training coalesced into a single fluid operation, every action reinforcing the mission's success. Riley spotted movement along a ridge, signaling a potential enemy threat. Kane responded immediately, directing suppressive fire and tactical positioning. Bullets tore through sand and rock, ricocheting in bursts, but no member of the team faltered. Carter guided the team around obstacles, using drone intel to map a safe path. The extraction helicopter hovered precariously close, blades churning, waiting for the team to reach the zone. Every second counted. The desert was unforgiving, yet the SEALs advanced with lethal precision. The high-value target was nearing the extraction point, guided by Kane and Carter. Riley continued Overwatch, neutralizing sporadic threats with calm efficiency. Kane scanned the ridges, anticipating enemy reinforcements or hidden snipers. The team's coordination was flawless, every step measured, every breath deliberate. The desert had been chaotic, lethal, and unpredictable, but training, discipline, and teamwork had transformed it into a controlled battlefield. The SEALs pressed forward, every action reinforcing regained control and preparing for final extraction. Finally, they reached the edge of the rocky outcrop, the helicopter within reach. Kane signaled the team to form a protective perimeter around the target. Rotorwash kicked sand violently into the air, creating a swirling storm of dust and debris. Riley, Kane, and Carter covered all angles, every eye scanning for hidden threats. The remaining enemy fighters, disoriented and demoralized, made no further attempt to interfere. The SEALs' presence was lethal, precise, and absolute. The desert, once chaotic, was now dominated by elite operators. Kane gave the final signal, move to the helicopter. The team advanced under Rotorwash, boots slipping on sand, rifles ready, eyes scanning every ridge. The target followed, guided carefully. Carter provided drone coverage overhead, monitoring any enemy approach. Riley's flank security ensured that no threat could close in. Kane coordinated every step, every movement, every breath. Extraction was not just about reaching the helicopter, it was about doing so under control, precision, and lethal efficiency. One by one, the SEALs and the target reached the helicopter. Kane moved last, scanning every angle, covering the team's retreat. Rotorwash intensified. Sand whipped around like a storm. Visibility reduced to near zero. The unseen sniper, their silent ally, had neutralized any lingering threats, allowing the SEALs to consolidate control. Kane climbed aboard, signaling for the helicopter to ascend. The team and target were secured, every member accounted for, every step executed with flawless precision. The helicopter lifted off, ascending above the desert. Sand and dust swirled. Violently below, remnants of chaos now frozen in the night. Kane observed the terrain shrinking beneath them, a battlefield they had dominated, a testament to training, coordination, and lethal skill. Riley checked the target. Carter monitored drone feeds, and Kane allowed himself a fleeting moment of relief. Extraction had been successful, the high-value target secured, and the SEALs had survived against extreme odds. As the helicopter disappeared into the night sky, the desert returned to silence. Moonlight illuminated the dunes, casting long shadows where bullets had torn paths and rocks had been displaced. The SEALs' mission was complete, but the memory of the ambush, the sniper, and the regained control would remain etched in their minds. Kane exhaled slowly, feeling the adrenaline ebb, a fleeting moment of triumph against the unforgiving desert night. The operation was a success, a testament to skill, precision, and coordination under extreme pressure. The helicopter rose above the desert, leaving behind the chaos of sand, smoke, and shattered rocks. Inside, the SEALs and the high-value target settled into tense quiet. The rotor's thrum filled the cabin, but the team's minds raced faster than the aircraft. The desert had tested them relentlessly. The ambush, the counterattack, and the extraction had demanded every ounce of skill, training, and instinct. Now, finally, there was a moment for reflection, a fleeting chance to process survival and success. Kane reclined slightly, eyes scanning the horizon outside the helicopter's windows. The night sky stretched endlessly, pale moonlight reflecting off shifting dunes below. The desert had been merciless, yet the SEALs had endured, adapting, surviving, and overcoming. The mission's success was not measured merely by survival, but by precision, coordination, and the ability to regain control against overwhelming odds. Kane's mind replayed every calculated decision, every coordinated maneuver, and every split-second choice that had carried them through. Riley, exhausted but alert, checked the target's condition. Despite hours of tension and relentless pressure, the individual was unharmed and cooperative, a testament to the SEAL's disciplined approach. Carter monitored drone feeds one last time, confirming that no enemy threats remained in the immediate vicinity. Every member of the team felt the adrenaline slowly ebb, replaced by a deep sense of accomplishment, tempered by the knowledge that the desert had spared no one's life lightly. Kane's thoughts drifted to the unseen sniper. Precise shots had shifted the balance, transforming a near-disastrous ambush into an opportunity for regained control. The sniper had remained invisible, yet their lethal intervention had been decisive. Kane allowed himself a brief acknowledgement of gratitude. Though the identity would likely remain unknown, the impact was undeniable. The desert had tested them, but teamwork, discipline, and a measure of luck had ensured success. The SEALs had not only survived, but dominated, transforming chaos into calculated control. The helicopter ascended higher, revealing the vast expanse of the desert beneath. Kane observed the shifting dunes, the cratered sand where bullets had struck, the rocks scattered by explosions, and the faint traces of enemy movement. The battlefield had been unforgiving, but it now lay behind them, conquered through tactical mastery. Each SEAL carried the memory of the fight, sweat-soaked uniforms, dust-streaked faces, the palpable tension of life-and-death decisions executed under extreme pressure. The mission was complete, but its lessons would linger. Carter leaned back, finally allowing a breath. "All clear from above," he reported, eyes still on the fading drone feed. Kane nodded, signaling Riley to maintain observation until the helicopter reached secure airspace. Even in transit, vigilance remained essential. The desert could conceal dangers that only a trained eye might perceive, and the team's survival had depended on this constant awareness. Discipline had carried them through the ambush, the counterattack, and the extraction, and now that same focus ensured the final moments of safety. The target spoke quietly, gratitude and relief mingling in their tone. Kane acknowledged it with a terse nod. Words were few, but the unspoken bond of survival, trust, and professionalism resonated between them. The mission had demanded precision, coordination, and an unyielding commitment to procedure. Each SEAL had relied on instinct, training, and each other to navigate chaos. The desert's threat had been neutralized, the objective secured, and the operation executed flawlessly under extreme duress. Riley glanced at Kane. "We made it," he said, voice low but carrying the weight of exhaustion and relief. Kane allowed a brief smile, though his eyes remained fixed outside, vigilant. Success had not come easily. The ambush had been nearly catastrophic, but training, coordination, and a silent ally had tipped the scales. The team had transformed potential disaster into opportunity, moving from chaos to control, from danger to tactical advantage. The desert had tested them, and they had proven themselves worthy. Carter switched off the drone feed, finally allowing silence to fill the cabin. The SEALs relaxed slightly, though the tension lingered in their muscles. Kane reflected on the sequence of events, the ambush, the counterattack, the unseen sniper's 5 critical shots, the meticulous advance toward the extraction point, and the final coordinated retreat. Every moment had demanded precision, discipline, and unwavering trust in training and teammates. The mission's success was measured not only by objective completion, but by survival against calculated, lethal opposition. Kane's mind wandered briefly to the desert itself. Its vastness, unpredictability, and hostility had been both enemy and teacher. Sand dunes shifted like living obstacles, rocks concealed hidden threats, and the night amplified every sound. The SEALs had been tested in ways that exceeded training simulations or controlled environments. Yet, in every moment of danger, discipline and coordination had prevailed. They had mastered the desert not through brute force alone, but through calculation, skill, and teamwork, adapting to unpredictability while maintaining lethal efficiency. The helicopter began its final descent toward a secure base. Kane's team remained alert, scanning the perimeter even as the ground drew closer. Riley and Carter maintained their roles, covering angles, monitoring intel, and ensuring the high-value target remained secure. Every SEAL understood the stakes. Extraction might feel complete, but until they touched down safely, the mission was not truly over. Training, vigilance, and precision remained paramount until every step was secure. As the rotor blades slowed near the landing zone, Kane allowed himself a deeper breath. The SEALs had survived ambush, reclaimed control, and executed extraction with deadly efficiency. The high-value target was secure, every threat neutralized, and the mission objectives completed. The desert, relentless and merciless, had been subdued by skill, discipline, and teamwork. Each SEAL carried the weight of the operation memories of gunfire, sand, dust, and smoke, but also the affirmation of survival, execution, and dominance under extreme conditions. The team disembarked carefully, the high-value target escorted. Under vigilant observation, Kane scanned the perimeter one last time, ensuring no overlooked threat remained. Riley followed closely, maintaining cover and readiness, while Carter monitored communication channels. The helicopter lifted off, disappearing into the night, leaving the SEALs and their objective on secure ground. Relief was tempered with the awareness that desert operations were never entirely free of risk, yet confidence in skill and cohesion prevailed. Kane finally lowered his weapon, surveying the secured area. Every member of the team exhaled, the adrenaline slowly ebbing. The mission had demanded every ounce of their training, every calculation of movement, and every instance of trust in one another. From the ambush that had threatened disaster, through the counterattack and the unseen sniper's intervention, to the meticulous extraction, the SEALs had proven their lethal capability under extreme pressure. They had reclaimed control, dominated the battlefield, and ensured success against formidable odds. The high-value target expressed quiet gratitude, acknowledging the SEAL's skill and composure. Kane nodded, maintaining professional distance, but recognizing the significance of survival and success. Every SEAL understood that the operation had been a test of endurance, judgment, and precision under relentless stress. The desert had been unforgiving, yet through coordination, discipline, and skill, they had not only survived, but achieved decisive victory. The mission's objectives were complete, and the lessons of survival, precision, and teamwork would remain indelible. Finally, as the first rays of dawn crested over the horizon, the desert's harshness transformed into quiet beauty. Sand dunes glimmered under pale light, rocks cast long shadows, and the battlefield scars remained etched in sand and stone. Kane allowed a brief, reflective smile. The SEALs had overcome ambush, chaos, and lethal opposition. They had secured the objective, extracted safely, and regained control. The desert had tested them relentlessly, but skill, training, and coordination had ensured victory. Their mission was complete, the aftermath marked by success, survival, and the unbroken spirit of elite operators.